Milecastles, a really important feature of Hadrian's Wall. So here's a bit about them. To start with, a bit of orientation. So you've got Hadrian's Wall. To the north of Hadrian's Wall, the Antonine Wall. The Antonine Wall is very much a pet project that wasn't completed, but you can still see the features of it because largely it's ditches and turf, that kind of a thing. Wasn't completed in stone. However, Hadrian's Wall was. Hadrian's Wall took advantage of two features, one of which you can see on the map here. That is to say, it was a narrow point on the island, which made perfect sense. This was very deliberate. This is around 73 miles in total, just to give you an idea. And there was another feature on here that you can't make out, which was the wind sill. This is a geological feature which effectively manifested in a number of really quite sheer cliffs which face northwards. And obviously at parts of Hadrian's Wall, they take full advantage of those features and build the wall along the top of those cliffs. Milecastles were a common feature along the wall. They're essentially small forts, fortlets if you want to call them that. And what they did was they allowed between, say, 10 and 30 men to be garrisoned there. Now, I've got one that you can see obviously here, a couple of features that I can show you. First of all, you've got the wall and you can see how it takes advantage of those cliffs. I'm not sure if this is part of the wind sill. It might be. Either case, you can see that the Romans, very clever, took advantage of anything they could. So you stick a wall on a cliff, even better. Why not? Now, the fortlet's there, and you can see that it's facing that way. So that way is north, okay? So you've got this sort of square off to the rear. Some of them are quite shallow. Others are really elongated. There's different types of milecastles. The general premise here was that you'd have a small force, probably auxiliary soldiers, between 10 and 26. And I've actually got a nice image of you to have a look at. In this reconstruction, you can see that we have the barracks there. So you had probably between 10 and 30 soldiers thereabouts. Though again, they'd be redeployed. You'd have men moving around. So, well, who knows how many they had in there, but they had somewhere to stay. And you've also got two features there which are really important. You've got the gatehouse, well, two gatehouses actually, and you've got a sort of connecting road to the south. That would obviously link into the infrastructure. And I think the important thing that you can take away from this is that Hadrian's Wall wasn't this hugely defensive structure. It was actually quite porous. People sometimes think of Hadrian's Wall as this thing that was there to stop all these Celtic tribes who are desperately trying to climb up and bash the wall. We don't have any evidence of that. In fact, you can see in one of the earlier images, they were trying to build another wall to the north of it. So it wasn't exactly the most furious of regions in terms of military activity. What the Hadrian's Wall did, though, was it allowed Romans to exert control. And this is a really important thing to think about. It is a wall, yes, because it's a wall. However, it's more than just that. It's actually a way of Romans being able to deploy troops, control, regulate, that kind of a thing. It's much more of a controlling feature than it is a defensive feature, though obviously defense comes into that description and that context. One other thing to think about the milecastles, actually, though, and I didn't realise this until I did some research recently. These were there before the wall. So they built the milecastles first and then connected the wall between them. So when you think about how they built their wall, these were really important because they essentially were tent pegs. You know, they set out where the wall was going to run. And you had the sections of the wall then added between the milecastles. Anyway, hope that gives you a few things you didn't know about Hadrian's Wall and, in fact, milecastles.